Hi, everybody. We're live.
Hello.
Jeffrey and I are sitting here sorting cards. We've been
Sortings.
sorting, not just reading cards. I have a few questions we're going to be asked, but Jeffrey and I wanted to get some stuff mentioned up front so we don't keep you forever at the end of the show. And I just moved my camera. So it looks like I'm sliding off into East Dallas, but I'm not going to do that. No. City.
No, don't go to East Dallas. What's in
It's,
East Dallas anyway?
oh, it's lovely. It's actually one of the better parts of the city, but energetically, it's one of the better parts of the city. Um, let's see, who's that? Oh,
Okay, I'm sorted.
you're sort. Well, we know you're kind of sorted. Anyway, Jeffrey and I are going to talk a little bit about um, the tarot class we're going to be teaching in January. We already have some students lined up. We have room in the class, not to And trust me, if I wanted 10 and the 11th person showed up, you'd get in because you're a
Yes.
power member.
Yes.
So, but what we're going to show you first is we're going to give you a quick, this is like a mini lesson. This is like what we take you through in the first days. After we've done numerology, which is what we do in the first day, and we teach you how to figure out your own life path, soul, expression, and outer self. Those three numbers, those are the important ones. Those are the ones other people see. Um, when you've gotten those down, then the next week, the second week of class, is going through the cards. And I, I'm going to be able to show you this happens when we do the class too. The cards are on that you can see easily. Jeffrey holds them up. I put them on the table so you can really look at them.
And I
And Jeffrey can do that, but it requires a lot of moving his computer and stuff. So what we're going to look at since it's the first day of, we start with we start with the Fool, who is 0, but we don't have other 0 cards. So to give
yeah,
you an idea of comparison, huh?
he's a standalone.
Yeah, he's at the beginning of when you do the 21 steps of the major arcana, and he's at the end because when you get to the end, then you're going to go back to the beginning again. So, but you need to come to the class for us to completely unwind that statement. And they go, "What the hell is she talking about?" We start with the magician. He's the one in the major arcana, and when you're the Fool, you're kind of an amorphous. You're not really here yet. You're between life and being incarnate. The magician is really incarnate. He has a body. And if you notice on the table, he has all the tools you'll ever use in the tarot, the coins for money and value and things that are really here, the cups for emotions, the swords for mind and intellect, and the wands for the ability to. I kind of think of the wands like the solar plexus
Yeah.
part of tarot because they're I'm going to get up, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And as you can tell, he's reaching up to the heavens and bringing what's from the divine into the earth, which is what each of us do in our incarnate bodies, even though there are days when the last thing we feel like is that we're tied to the divine. We really are. So you
Well,
can
we
tell
are
him,
the divine.
yes, we are the divine. And you can tell I'm getting better because I'm being more optimistic in what I'm talking about. Do you want to say anything else about the magician, Jeffrey?
Well, the magician is actually a really, really powerful card. I mean, all the cards are powerful, but the magician is really interesting in that he understands his eternity. He understands that he is an eternal soul and that he's in cycle. He really gets that.
Mm-hmm.
He really understands cycle and crossing of cycle and the
Mm-hmm.
eternal movement. And the other thing about him is that he's got a magic wand in his hand. He's got a magic wand in his hand. So we talk a lot about in the class, we talk about the iconography and the cards and the symbolism because a lot of it is really ancient. And I have a lot of information about all that. So we really go in depth, and it's a 6 week class. So, the second week, the first week we do the numerology, like Nancy said, and that'll be personal to you because it's based on your name, your given name. If you spell your name Cathy or Kathi, it's going to be different
Mm-hmm.
numbers, different energy. So we do that, and then we get into the numbers because the numbers are super, super important in tarot. And so the magician is the one, and he is the energy of the I am. He is the energy of the I am. Um, uh, he really understands that I'm here to do a job. I incarnated for a reason. That he has the yellow background, which is really about optimism and spirit, and the solar
Mhm.
plexus again, and hope. And then around his waist, he has the Uberus. I never
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yes, that's the serpent that's eating its tail. That, according to the Swedish elemental legends, if he ever quits biting its tail, we're all gone.
Right, and that symbolizes the North and South Node in astrology. It shows up really
And
all over.
in African mythology, on almost all their creation myths talk about two serpents that circled the world
Mhm.
because they built so much on Africa that it took two serpents to do it. So they run around the world too.
Yeah, it shows up actually really all over there because it's in Mexico too. It's in ancient Greece. It's in China. It's everywhere. So we talk a lot about the iconography and then the feeling. We give you a lot of keywords for each card and each number as well. And so, it's really in depth and you really learn a lot. And there are a lot of students and people ask really good questions. And then as we go further and further into our lessons, um, we get to practice. So we practice 3 card readings, 4 card readings, et cetera, et cetera. What does this mean? How do I put them together? And then, you get to literally practice with other people who are practicing. And you really get to learn a lot. And I think we're both on the same page in that we're teaching this so that you can access your own intuition, so you can access your own inner voice.
Hmm.
And this is a tool to open that up for you.
Right. I I'm self-taught. I just was handed a deck and said, figure it out. It had the little white book,
Hmm.
LWB, that's in every deck. And I figured things out from that. And then I got a couple books that were out at the time that you could get at when we had local bookstores,
Yeah,
you could go in and you could find them and you could read them before you bought them so you could see what they really said.
right.
And um but since I started reading at 12, I have a whole lot of years of different parts of my life that was reading. And there are still readings I did for friends when we were 12 that have come true and
Wow.
have grown over time. But they're very much, your reading is very much, you're never going to pull in someone to read that there isn't a message for you
Exactly.
in the lesson. And that's what you learn. We're going to
Yeah.
go quickly through the aces, which are other ones.
All right. So pentacles are about the
Mhm.
physical world. Pentacles are about the body, it's about health, it's about money, and it's about time.
Mm-hmm. And it's got the prettiest gate. When you look at these other ones, none of the gates are completed or the path starts, but it doesn't end. Pentacles are things in this world that we can really touch, things that really exist for us or can exist for us. You
Mhm.
notice it's going through this beautiful gate and the lights flooding through, and those whooped out hands, they used to freak me out even when I was younger reading cards. I went, what the hell is this guy doing this forever? And they're all well, that's a very feminine looking hand. That's a neutered hand. This is a guy hand, and this is a guy hand. When you look at them, to me, so
Yeah, for me, these are both feminine because this is whoops,
mhm.
this is cups, and cups are a feminine element because it's emotion, it receives.
Yeah, she's kind of got long, skinny
Right.
fingers, but none
Yeah,
of them
both
have
receive.
manicures.
Both of these receive.
Oh, I
So
just showed my generational shift. I said, if it's a female hand, it has a manicure. I'm sorry, guys that have manicures.
I love getting manicures.
Oh, yeah. I took one of my sons to the place, and because he had toenails that were like stalactites, and so I said, really, and that lady worked in him, but he got to soak his feet and do all this stuff. And now, about once a year, he said, I have to go get a manicure just so they
Mhm.
you know,
I like when they start with when they start doing the hand massage, like
yeah, if they know what they're doing. The Ace of Cups, it's got
what a
the dove of peace coming down into it. Your cup overfloweth, you're over water. Whereas this one's on land, this one's on land, this one's on land. That
mhm,
water alone tells you this is emotions.
mhm.
And the Ace of Cups always for me is a big yes.
Yeah, yeah,
And reversed, it can be a big fat no. Look at
yeah,
where your waters. You're going. You're trying to swim upstream.
yeah. And it's this energy of flow,
Hmm.
never ending. It's abundant, it's flow, and it's a blessing. And also, cups also represent intuition.
Hmm.
And they also, it came to me like a week or two ago. This is what happens as you read Tarot, more and more comes.
Hmm.
Energy of forgiveness in this cup.
Oh yeah.
There's a real energy of forgiveness. So it's really heart centered, heartfelt, compassion, love, romance, dedication, devotion. It's a really, really rich card. This is a rich card too. I have a
Mhm.
whole thing about this, but you're going to have to come to the class for all the deepness.
Yeah, and we send you sheets with pictures of the cards, and then descriptions are keyword descriptions. The keyword descriptions are just to give you enough to hold on to.
Right,
So when you start laying out cards, you don't feel like, oh my God, I can't do this.
right.
And that's what the practice readings are. We're in the 4 weeks of practice readings from our last class right
Mhm.
now. And we had a forgiveness day because everybody got sick on the same day. So that day got blown. And we don't do the classes on, we do the classes in the evening because so many people work. It seems easier. But right now we know it's going to be any evenings. We haven't set it down so far, but any evening but Tuesday, because one of the people who wants to be there has a meditation thing on Tuesdays. So that's kind of where we are with that. So let's move on. It slices, it dices, it covers you with water, it cuts you up. The swords are there are two sides to that sword. It's a double-bladed sword. So, which, treat it with care. Um, the landscape is changing. It looks almost fall-like in the front
Mhm.
mountains, and
Mhm.
then
It almost looks like two volcanoes. It almost looks like two volcanoes to me.
yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Well, I mean, I live in the world of volcanoes, so
yeah, I used to think that was an ocean, but man, if your ocean waves are coming that high, you must be on the end of the cyclone that's going to hit the west coast. I mean, really. And do you know that for folks who don't know this, I sent this to Danny and he wasn't at all shocked. But an oarfish ended up on the shore. And oarfishes
oh,
are,
they come in the deep, deep, deep.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they're 9 feet long and they're really ugly little mothers. I mean, I'm sure God made them. I'm sure their mothers loved them, but I don't like fish much. And this one showed up and it said that in Japanese legend that always portends big changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent it to Danny and he said, and I'm supposed to do what? I mean, this is when you get these portent legends. Anyway, but the swords can mean clear thinking, cutting through, um,
New idea, new
new
perspective,
ideas.
brightness.
When I get someone who's got a medical problem and they just haven't been able to figure out all the pieces to it yet, they get the Ace of Swords. Some doctor's going to show up that can cut through all the crap and
Yeah.
figure out exactly what you need. I mean, this is not for every time you see the Ace of Swords doesn't mean you're going to go see a doctor. Lord knows it doesn't mean that for
No,
me.
that's the thing about all the cards, like some people like to say, well, they said in the book and it's only this. And it's like, no, no, there's probably 30 or 40 meanings to every card. And what we're trying to help you to do, in the long run with the cards is like to be able to form your own understanding and your own intuitive understanding of what these cards mean for you individually,
Mhm.
that you can read it like that because there's no right and wrong, right? So for me, like the little hit that I get on the Ace of Swords is that this energy of like the sword coming out of the sheath, and it's bright because it's metallic, and I
Mhm.
get like this magic act, like like the magician's assistant is on the stage, and there's this poof of smoke, and all of a sudden it's a freaking tiger. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
wow. And so it's almost like it dissolves the past. It's like
Mm-hmm.
brand new. It's a little bit, because it's thought and messages.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit like a light bulb in your head. Like,
Mm-hmm.
ah,
And if I don't know if you've ever heard someone pulling a real sword out of the scabbard where it was, it actually sings.
ah,
It goes yeah 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 yeah. It makes it, but it's a really pretty singing sound. Is I always think that there's a lot of things that are very destructive that have very pretty sounds around them that attracts us to them. Then we get the Ace of Wands, and wands took me a long time to understand. Um, but wands are enterprise. You see, they're growing things. They're moving forward. They're doing things in stages, whereas the sword can like things move. This one is it takes time to grow.
right. I'm going to plant this. I'm going to plant,
Mhm.
and it's creative energy.
Mhm.
It's passion.
It's the
Uh,
entrepreneur.
yeah, I'm gonna do something that I really love to do. And for me, a lot of times the wands, I mean, it's a symbol of spring. It's fertility. It's growing, and it's this energy of like, what gets me out of bed in the morning? What do I really want to do? What do I like? It's instinct.
Yeah.
This is more thought. This is more feeling. This is more reality, and this is my instinct.
And this is truly one of the only timing cards I think we have in the deck. This is winter.
Hmm.
This is uh, wands are spring because they got the little leafy judes on 'em.
Hmm.
Summer is like, bathing in this warm
The
sun.
abundant, right?
And fall is when you cut things down and start them to create them new. Um, so when I say tarot doesn't tell time, that's the best we got, guys, and it's not terribly accurate. So that Jeffrey and I we were talking about it. We wanted to give you a chance to see kind of a little bit of a class, and that's a little bitty because we go through the whole deck. We go through all the numbers. We go through all the major arcana. We go through those kind of personalities, and there are some that people tend to standardize. And like my grandson is a page of pentacles, and whenever it's a reading that's heading off in that direction in the family, that's how he shows up. But well, in uh Cheryl, this guy, you'll know his work when you see the picture. Yep, yep, yep.
And we recommend the Rider-Waite deck.
Yeah, and when you're going to start with us, we make everybody read on the Rider-Waite deck because I made the mistake early in my career when I was teaching this like 30 years ago. And I said, oh, sure, bring whatever deck you're used to. I had this woman show up with a deck, and to the life of me, I still don't know what those cards were. I mean, I had
Yeah,
to have.
there's some decks that are so minimalistic. It's like,
No, this one was weird. I mean, it wasn't even minimalistic. Anyway, but then because this deck, which you've probably seen readers read with, he has several different versions of it. It's a very expensive deck. It's done on linen cards, but it's the one that has my grandson is the page of Pentacles. And when I showed it to his sister, and this was about 5 years ago, so she was about 6 years old. I showed her the card, and I said, "Who's that?" And she goes, "Oh, that's Ian." I mean, it really looks so much like Ian. So anyway, and I get to see them next week for Thanksgiving.
fun.
Huh?
Fun.
Yeah, because their mother will be in Austin and they will be here. So it will be fun. But I mean, the kids are delightful. And when they come and get Christmas gifts for me or they get gifts for me, they're getting an advent calendar. Each one's getting their own kind this year. And then for their birthdays, which also happen to be in June, really close to each other, Ayla got a wonderful cat tarot deck because she really loves cats and she does understand tarot. And Ian got a book of pendulums, and I almost wanted to get it back from the kids because it came with 2 pendulums in the box, and
Nice.
then a whole book of
Oh,
play of things. You know, do you want to know what the time is? Do you want to know this? Do you want to know your health? There were like 25 different layouts
cool.
to work with it, and I told him he could have it, but he couldn't throw the pendulums at Ayla, and he hasn't. And his mother has told my son that he will sometimes play with the pendulum after he's bored with the computer.
Mm-hmm.
And he has some fantastic graphics games. So that's kind of that rundown. Also, I'm still having the deal on selling the Oracle Garden and doing all that. And I will be teaching in January for anyone who owns an Oracle Garden. And I have all your names and addresses and how to reach you.
Mm-hmm.
You order on Shopify, they don't let anything go. And I have, and I will be offering you a class, and you can come and I have revamped my materials, and by then they will be completely. They're not different, but they're more detailed because when I wrote that stuff 3 years ago, I hadn't been reading with the garden for 3 years, and I didn't know all the ins and outs. And then, in case you just never watch my channel or you've missed it, starting the 1st of December, we're going to be doing the Advent calendar, and I'm going to be pulling a stone a day. And I'm having a lot of readers come join me. I'm having some people that are part of my community, I'm having some of my students come. And for those of you who didn't grow up with Advent calendars, what they are is they're one a day from the 1st of December to the 24th of December.
Open it up like a little book.
Right. And all of the things behind these doors are crystals, and they're fascinating, and they're of course, all crystals have a spiritual connection. And as we move through more of this time of change, we're going to be blessing Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole thing is dedicated to Mother Earth. And my little prayer, it comes from the Haudenosaunee prayer of Thanksgiving, which that's the Northeast Americans up on the seaboard in New England and stuff. It was that Confederation of Tribes, which I was always taught was called the Iroquois Confederation, but
that's more like in upstate New York.
Yeah, it's actually all the tribes, all the way down to the ones the Pilgrims made sick. So, and it's like, I grew up in a Christian tradition that had prayers to the people, and we would repeat things back and forth among. And so this is undoubtedly, when I read this whole prayer, it's a beautiful prayer. This is what this is dedicated to, the crystals. We are thankful to the mother, the earth. She gave us all that we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk upon her. It gives us great joy that she continues to take care of us. And she has from the very beginning of time. So to our mothers, we send greetings and thanks. And then we take a look at specific crystals and what they can mean to you. And so if you want to find different things, and it's got everything from soup to nuts, it's got the spiritual ones, it has a lot of fossils, and fossils are ancestor tools. So anyway, I'm going to go into all of that between the 1st of December to the 24th. So on to your concerns for the day. If this goes along with my grumpy cat picture, how to avoid looking like him.
Well, wait. No.
Yeah, well, yeah. Okay. So that's what these questions are about. All
right. And we really were looking forward to seeing you all in our class.
Yes. And just coming along with us on the 1st through the 24th, because December can be a hard month for people. And this gives you a chance one time a day. It'll be the premiere will be on at 11:11 in the morning, but it'll be there all the time off my channel. So if you're not yet liked it, you don't have to like it, but if you subscribe to my channel, then you will get notifications. Spacey Angel. I think figuring out all the logistics between 6 different households alone is making me grumpy. Sorry for having that one request family. Yeah, you just have to prioritize it and just mark them off and say, when I get past this one, I'm past this one. Yeah. It's sort of like, am I going to scrub the floors today? Or am I going to clean the bathroom? Right. You know, just pick the one and dedicate yourself to that duty that day.
And just do that.
Yeah. Well, I need someone to come do my bathroom. Let me tell you.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I can't bend over, so I got a reason. Although I have all the steamy tools and everything, I just standing that long. Okay. Ronnie Y. I don't get the grumpies, but I do get the holiday blues the closer we get to the big day. And that's true. It brings up a lot of missed opportunities, shoulda, coulda, wouldas. And what you just need to do is find something to put in every day to make it positive. Go buy an advent calendar that has your favorite candies in it, or cookies, or whatever you want to do. They have ones that have little Lego figures you can build. I mean,
that's cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be what I tell you, Roni. I don't know.
I'm getting to buy flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jeff has a beautiful garden, and he lives in Mexico where you can have a beautiful garden in December.
My marigolds have started reblooming again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's, find something that and take your own response. If you're, I can tell you what, if you're waiting for someone to cheer you up about a certain day, it's not going to happen. As a matter of fact, yesterday was the 20th anniversary of my second husband's death. And I got almost to the end of the day till I had to verify a date. And I went, November 20th. I went, oh, I remember. But that used to be right after he died. Every year it was from the time he went into the hospital till we got to the last day. It was about a 3-month period of time. It was like, I remember on this day this happened, and slowly the universe is freeing me from having to worry about that. I learned the lesson I needed to learn, and I'm moving on. Okay. And this is what somebody thought about the cat. He had a cute face.
What do you mean the cat? I mean, I thought it was me.
No, this is the one for you, Jeffrey. I will stay away from them. That's how Tammy's going to solve. And that's a legitimate thing. If you don't want to be where family is, don't be where family is. So now we have things in the comments. A lot from Engla. Engla lives in Finland, for those of you who don't know.
Hi, Engla. I tried to say hello the other day. I'm still working on the vision. I went to the hospital yesterday, by the way.
Oh, yeah, Jeffrey.
A prescription for glasses, so I have to figure out where I'm going to get them and all that, and who's going to take me. I need a translator. I don't need a translator, but it makes me feel more at ease.
If I went into a Spanish place, I'd absolutely need a translator. I'd probably need two. And I've lived in Texas since 1967, and that's a real crime because so many people around me speak Spanish, and I even taught my youngest Spanish in homeschooling. And I remember when we got to the lesson where it says, by now you should be holding conversations, and we were still going, bueno. I mean, we weren't.
Yeah, the way to, you have to well, it's a little bit like the Tarot class. It's like the way you can learn it is by jumping in the water. The way I really learn more is by speaking it and then asking. And it's like, and then when I say a sentence, I'm like, ¿es correcto? ¿Qué es más común? What is more common? ¿Qué es más correcto?
Well, what I found out was I didn't think I was learning much, but later that year when I was standing in the Target, there'd be people that were before had just been chattering, and I didn't care because I don't like to listen to other people's conversation that much. But I began to realize what I was hearing them talk about is exactly what I would talk about when I was in the Target with a friend. Can you believe the price on this? Da 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 cents. I mean, everything. They were talking about what I was talking about. Nothing horrendous or suspicious or anything. They just. And the only foreign language I formally studied was Latin because my parents were old school and thought you needed it. And I really wanted to take French. And my parents were raised in Canada and they were totally bilingual. They were totally fluent in both. And the reason they wouldn't let us learn French is when they wanted to fight with each other, they'd speak French.
Exactly.
So they kept us out of the loop. Okay, Anglo, we're gonna do the worldwide weather report. We just had our first snowstorm in southwest Finland. Flights and trains are slightly late. In the rural counties, there may be power failures. Well, we have power failures in Texas in the middle of August when you wouldn't, there's no snow, there's no reason. We just have bad government. And I don't think they have bad government in Finland. And let's see, Dr. Gale's here.
Hi, Dr. Gale.
And, oh, this is sensible. They have a lot of thermal heat in Finland, and they make people in the rural areas use two forms of heat, two forms of generating heat.
Like a backup.
Yeah.
Yeah, smart.
That's smart. And it makes people aware and responsible, I presume. I don't know that people in Finland are any more responsible than we are. But if Angla's any size of what they're like, she is more responsible. So, and she's going to blush now. I have some great pictures closer to Christmas. She sent me her whole village lights up for Christmas. Mm-hmm. And she had pictures from the church and pictures from along the river. She sent me about 6 pictures. I'm going to use them as background pictures.
I'm going to go to the Zocalo. I'll take some pictures for you. The Zocalo is a big square here, and they always really do it. I mean, for everything. So when it's up, I'll go take pictures for you too.
And this did happen. Finland got cut off from its internet and some of its connections to Europe. And sure enough, the Chinese vessel that was out there last time is there again. So I don't think you have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure that one out. And yeah, you can do what Jeffrey and I were just doing, lay out similar cards and just look and see how it changes. If it's a coin, if it's a cups, if it's a whatever. And if you understand the numerology, you're going to realize that the images reflect the power of that number. 3 is communication and bringing people together. If you look at the 3s, you'll see that message in all the cards. Mm-hmm. But it's so much more fun to do it with friends.
It is. It is. And I could teach you a lot about the iconography. Really
yeah. And Jeffrey does a show called Tarot Tuesday, and he does an in-depth. He does like half hour to an hour long look at every card in the deck.
One at a time. One at a time.
One at a time. And you will know more about that card at the end of that session than you probably ever will. Okay. Please, could you discuss your thoughts on tarot for self-development versus predictions? Mm-hmm. I find that when I try to use it for predictions, my own preferences and biases end up in the reading. Well, that means you're a human being and your brain is wired right. But the self-growth feels spot on. Yes. You want to talk about that, Jeffrey?
Well, I mean, I like if am I going to get the job? It's like I'm going to keep on pulling cards until I get the sun. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just keep on pulling. It's like, oh, that doesn't mean anything. So yeah, it's very hard to read for yourself. But if you're really going in and really connecting with your heart, and it's like, I want this for my highest good and my highest healing, and what's the energy, and what am I looking at? What do I need to look? You're going in with a different attitude, and I agree. I agree.
Mm-hmm. And I do.
Just one of the tools that I use. I read the clouds and I read the birds, and but I think a lot of times, tarot is like a really good opener to like get you in touch with like What am I seeing? What am I feeling? What am I hearing? You know, and to understand what it means and what it means to you, it's a really good practice to like plug into your intuition every day,
Mm-hmm.
every week, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it can definitely be used as a tool for self-development. And honestly, that's how I read tarot when I read it for individuals. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
how can I help you? It's not like I'm giving you the answer. It's like, these are the possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
This is the energy that's going around and out there and that you can access. And it's like, well, what are you going to do with it? Because sometimes, sometimes we can't see our own. I mean, sometimes, all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's
Feels
inviting
that way.
in spirit and it's inviting in um, messages, omens,
Yeah. And
signals.
sometimes you just pull a card a day and say, what do I see on this card today?
Hmm.
You got to realize that the lady who designed the weight of the Rider Waite deck, um, she was a
Pamela
mystic.
Coleman Smith.
Yes, Smith. She she got what she got for painting the original deck. She never got any more money out of it.
Hmm.
But she worked with she was with
Wait,
she was with Waite, but who was um
I know
Aleister Crowley. She was
Ralph,
she hung around with Crowley, who is a very, if you read anything about Aleister, he's a very strange person.
yeah, to
Um
say the least.
yeah, in the very least. And he she was raised in the Caribbean, then she was educated in art and her mystic stuff in England, and then she lived in New York. She lived in New York when she did the deck.
Yeah, she went to Pratt Institute, which is still an art school and still
Mhm. It's
alive
a
and well.
wonderful art. I had friends from high school who went there, and they had brilliant, wonderful careers.
Yeah, it's a
So,
beautiful campus too.
so she, but anyway, she very carefully considered every image that was in those cards. And I think too often we say, "Oh, just use the Rider Waite deck." And it really does have every image you can see. And if you get another deck that's styled like Rider Waite, it has the same number of cards, which you need for tarot. And except there's a couple of people who throw in extra cards. My favorite is the one that it's got squirrels in this card, and it means you're building up more equity in your abilities. Anyway, I mean, just really. Um, but you will find in really good decks, you will find an homage to the images in that deck. So if you understand a Rider Waite deck, you can pick up another deck and follow.
Yeah, it's almost like having a dictionary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like
And
learning.
also, basically, every other deck is based in the Rider Waite.
Right,
So you might as well start at the beginning.
right, and really read up and study it, and then if you do get a different deck, read if they give you a little white book or a book to accompany it, read it, because when you create a divination tool, even if it's a copy of something else, you're going to see how they each bring in their own
Hmm.
values. And
Hmm.
I counted them the other day. I have 34 tarot decks, and um, each one of them has a different feeling about it. Each one of them comes at it from a different angle. And some of them I'll go, oh, this needs to be read by this deck because I know kind of how it tilts. So, and if you have a deck you've used for years that you picked up years ago in a store and you love it, but really learn the symbols on the cards. And self teaching, what I did for a year, I had the Eileen Conley Book of Tarot, and she was using the Rider Waite deck, and there was a big picture of the card on one page. It was like a workbook. And then on the other page, it was like, what do you see? How do you feel about this? How's your day going today? And it
Hmm.
took me a year and a half to get through the whole thing. And by the end of it, I had a much, much better understanding. And I still have that book, and I still will go look at those pages.
Hmm.
And I did that 40 years ago. So yeah, I totally believe in self-development, and some people use cards only for self-development. I think sometimes people fall to oracle cards to using them a lot, and I used to have a real thing about oracle cards. I thought they were the lazy person's way to do metaphysics, but I don't think that anymore. I think I've had some oracle decks that are very powerful too. And you have to look at, but you have to spend time looking at the images. All these cards are based on images.
Right. Right.
So Sylvan Butterfly, you're in the right school. In Anglo.
I can't wait to get the glasses so I can see the comments.
Okay. I read them. I would like to be with my family, but they don't want to come over anymore, or they live out of state. That's what happens when they grow up. Oh, so you're the mom and they're coming home. Oh, tell me how you did that. I share a condo with two of my grown children, and the third one just moved. He moved back into Dallas in the summer, and he's going back to Wisconsin, and that's going to be lovely. He's got a job up there through the spring, but I totally believe he'll be back here. I have friends who say, I can't get my kids to come visit. You can't get yours to go away. There's got to be a happy medium in here.
And you know what, Amanda, buy the pumpkin pie and eat the whole thing. What do you care?
That's right. Send them pictures and say, boy, was this good.
Oh my God, it was so good.
Yes. And Beatrice knows about this because Beatrice is bilingual. And the best way to learn a language is reading a book when you formally read in your own language, in the new language.
It's a very literate society here. There are a lot of bookstores, there are a lot of book fairs, a lot. And they sell books on the street everywhere, everywhere.
And there are YouTube audiobooks that are on famous pieces of literature that have been in other places. And you can hear, because I'm more of an oral person, you can hear, AURAL, oral person that way. You can hear that story and there's a whole bunch of YouTubes trying to learn English as a second language. And what they're really good about is they don't mispronounce the words, even if it's sort of a slangy type thing. I think it makes it easier for them. Amanda, how much is the class? It's $250, 6 weeks of class, 4 weeks of follow-up.
I thought it was $225.
$225. I'm sorry, I'm $225.
Look, yeah, I already saved you money, Amanda. So $25, I bet you could buy 2 pumpkin pies.
Right. And Amanda, you can go to my website, www. Let's see if I have it in my
crystaldirections.com with an S.
Or you can write me and I'll send you the link.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
And I have it also on my if you're watching on my channel, it's also there because we just filter it into one. It's much simpler. And I'm also actually having a sale. I'm having a sale until December 2nd on tarot readings through, Cyber Monday, Black Friday, Thanksgiving, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. And Seascape.
The other thing is we really like teaching. We're like into it. We're into it,
It took me a long time because I always taught it in person and I always had 10 people in my class. I had one class that completely fell apart and ended up only having one student. It didn't happen. It was long before COVID. And he happened to be an old friend of mine. So I went ahead and did it. But the real fun is getting to know the other people. And you're going to, when you watch my December 24, 1 to 24, some of the people I've taught are coming in to look at the crystals with me and stuff.
So for instance, let's say I describe, so let's say this is just on the top of the deck. So I do a little description of this one and I say, oh, this is about balancing things. And then Nancy says he's trying to find his legs, which I know you always use for this card.
Right.
Then a third person will say, like maybe somebody in the class will say, well, it looks like he's been on a trip, which is correct. So now you have 3 things, and so you're the fourth person, and you pull this card, and it's like, I'm finding my way after I got off a trip, and that's a correct interpretation. But So now we're inviting all this new energy. So it's like, oh, I can see how um, wide the interpretation could
Mhm.
be. And the one that makes the most sense to me personally,
Mhm.
like
Is what
me as you,
that's why the universe is sending you that card to interpret for someone.
right? So there's this energy, with working with others and being in a classroom with other people who are learning, and then we're all going to practice, and it's like, okay, and then you take on their understanding of it. It's like, well, I think that makes sense too, and then maybe you say something, and they're like, oh, yeah, I really like that. So you see,
Okay, and Sylvan Butterfly also says, do you usually just connect with certain deck versus needing to take time to learn the bond with each deck? I use when I read it, when I used to read at table and out in public, and I still use it. I found a deck in the early 2000s that death was called transition and the devil was called materialism. And when I first started really reading regularly in public, it was in a wine bar. And let me tell you, after someone's had 2 or 3 glasses of wine, you do not want to put death or the devil on the table for them. The cards mean the same thing. Death just means transition. You go from one place to another, and everything sort of changes. And the devil does mean materialism. It means you're so tied to something on the earthly plane
mhm,
that you're missing all the spirit that's going on around you.
right? It's a false path. The devil
Right,
is really the false
right.
path. Yeah.
So I had no problem, but you know, I wish they had found another thing for the tower card because everybody gets so afraid of the tower card. And the tower card is really a lovely card. The tower card is my first marriage. I kept thinking it was going to change and go a different way. So we kept building it and building it and building it. And then when it was no longer supportable, it fell down much harder than it maybe would have needed to had I cut out a few years earlier. That's
Mhm.
water under the bridge or tower laying in a clump. But when you learn this when we teach you the fool's journey, which is the path through the major arcana, that the tower is there, everything falls down, and it looks very scary. And I think we're in a tower moment around us. A lot of us are.
Mhm.
But when you wake up, what's looking at you? The star, new goals. You're just laying there flat saying, "Oh my God, look at that pretty star." So there's if you learn the fool's path, you learn that nothing's going to knock you that hard, and to take the new perspective on it. So people get the tower all the time, and I'll tell them, look back 5 years from now and see how you feel about it. And I've had a lot of people who I've read that long who've told me you were right
Mhm.
making that change. It seemed horrible at the time, but it was really the best thing possible.
Well, a lot of times the tower is the oversoul coming in to shake
Yeah.
you as you don't belong here anymore. You're vibrating.
Mhm. You're pushed, bonk. But when you're talking about if you find a deck, like I'll just see a deck and it will take my breath away, and I have several of them here, or I will read the interpretation of the cards. There's one called Luna Soul, and I read reverses. Luna Soul, the guy who designed the deck, said, "Do not reverse these cards. This is the way you read them." And I I love his deck. I use it as part of my routine on reading past lives. And my favorite card in that deck is the Four of Coins, which I think a lot of decks, see, it's a little guy that's, I've got my coins and you're not getting them kind of thing. Well, in that deck, there's a guy standing in a hallway. He's got a coin in each hand and one under each arm. The only way forward is a locked door, and the key to open the lock is on the floor. Now, to me, that's the best description of the Four of Coins. You have to let something go to grow,
Mhm.
to be able to move on. And I mean, I literally, that deck was no longer in print, and I literally searched, and I had friends that were searching, and we found some store that did not know the value of that deck because I got it for a reasonable price. And now that deck, it's Luna Soul. It is in reprint, and you can get it. And if you want to get a wonderful deck, that's a good deck. And that's one, if you don't want to deal with reverses, don't deal with reverses because they don't let you. You don't want you to.
I think for me, like if you're just beginning the last person, Like get into one deck and really understand it and then move on. But like really get the first one. And for me, like this just keeps on talking to me. It just keeps on talking to me. That's the way it works for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you'll find things that just intrigue you. One of the things that always bothered me about tarot was when it was created was right around World War One and right
No,
after.
before. I think even before that, no?
She started it before, but it became the books really published about how to read it. The fat ones were published right at the very end of the war. And
No.
you got to realize wars bring up a lot of spiritualism in people because it shakes them to their foundations. That's why there was so much spiritualism after the Civil War. I mean, the devastation and death to this country. 1910. Thank you, Carolyn. You're right. Jeffrey's right. I got my times mixed up. But when you after wars, there's a lot of spiritualism that usually comes up, and the Civil War was a perfect example. I mean, if you read the history, there were all kinds of spiritual groups and leaders and
Oh,
things.
theosophy, all that stuff.
Yeah, and it's because people realize that what we've been standing on doesn't hold, and they're looking for something new. But if and you want a different iconography, you want a different way of looking at the world, and it's and I had my thought was headed in a way, and there it went. Boop, okay, let's go to somewhere else.
Also, it ignites your imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe different pieces and parts of your vision, of your hearing that it just plugs you into it.
Mm-hmm.
Plugs you into it.
Yeah, and you'll have people who will say, when you're talking with readers who read a lot and get into that mode with each other, you'll hear there's a lot of six of cups in that.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what six of cups means, then it's a short way to translate parts of our lives, but also not just translate them, but bring them into focus. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what Jeffrey and I are trying to talk about this time is you can choose to look like that for the whole of the holidays. Or you can come around and follow the 24 days that we're going to be doing crystals, because what's going to happen during that time is I open a door each day. There's a stone inside. We talk about the spiritual meaning. We talk about where it comes from in the earth. And like I read for you from the beginning, this is Mother Earth showing us the guidance. It's like the breadcrumbs she's left for us
Mm-hmm.
to live with. And what else you got going on, Jeffrey? You got a sale on your site?
I have a sale on my site. I've got to like figure out how to get the glasses, and so the sale is good through the 2nd of December. It's all tarot readings, and you could buy it for a friend. And that's the other thing about our class is like, well, I want to do it with my friend, so like invite your friend, and maybe the two.
Jeffrey just went dark on us. And it's not from my end, it's from his end. Well, anyway, please do go help support Jeffrey. Like he said, he's had 2 cataract surgeries. He's still recovering from having problems, little problems with his eyes. Nothing that's critical. And I look forward to seeing some of you in class. Some of you can just stay in the chat forever, and that's fine, and learn with us what you can, because we do intend to keep teaching people how to do this and do it better. And so I can't, yeah, he went away. I didn't click him off. Bye, Jeffrey. But if you would like to come and participate in that, it'll be lots of fun. I'm feeling much, much better for those of you who know about the falls. And I'm working every day on making sure everything's staying connected. And I'm, just, this is Jeffrey. You went away.
Yeah, my whole electric went.
Okay. Well, we're wrapping it up. Say goodbye, Jeffrey. Yeah. Say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, Jeffrey. Yeah, I figured that's what was. He's been. Yeah, a lot of people are going to be losing their connections. Oh, I know what I was going to talk about. The reason I invented the garden was tarot cards seem to be very dualistic, and they are. They came from a very dualistic time. Things were black or white or this or that. And so a lot of the readings, if you follow exactly the text in the books, you're going to see that. So that's why when I teach it, I try to teach it with a more holistic view of what's going on around you. But anyway, everybody have a good day. I look forward to seeing you throughout December. I may not be doing my daily things in December because I'm going to have to do 24 Zooms to get together. Then I have to get them all set up. So, oh, Angela got the Crystal Advent calendar. Good girl. And everybody, I hope you stay safe. I know we've got some crap ass weather coming in. All it's going to be for me is colder than I want it to be. I can't imagine living where some of the other places where I grew up in the Midwest, it's going to be an S storm, and I don't mean snow. Take care. Bye.